Pop stars, TV personalities, and world leaders have some of the most recognizable faces in the world. But have you ever considered what they might look like if they were born as the opposite sex? Well, wonder no more, because I'm about to show you. But be warned, you won't be able to unsee some of these gender-swapped celebs. Beyonce and Jay-Z. Let's start with two of the most famous faces in the music business. You'd struggle to find someone who hasn't heard of Jay-Z or Beyonce, but what would they look like if the gender roles were reversed? Bey is already pretty flawless, and I have to say her male counterpart looks like a dashing fella too, with the only real difference being some subtle facial hair and bushier brows. I guess you can pull off just about anything with a facial structure like Beyonce, and even with that hairstyle, masculine B still looks like a total boss. But how does her hubby Jay-Z scrub up? Well, it seems like Jay is probably in there somewhere under all that intense makeup. It looks like he borrowed a few tips from Bey when it comes to those voluminous locks and smoky eyeshadow, and that lip gloss is definitely poppin'. I can't be the only one who thinks he kinda looks like a young Missy Elliott in this intriguing transformation too, right? Ariana Grande. Ariana Grande is definitely the pop star of the moment, but I wonder whether she'd still dominate the charts as a dude. Take a look at this and decide for yourself. Boy, Ariana looks more like a pop star's personal bodyguard than the headline act himself, especially with that glittery earpiece. It's uncanny how much this looks like Ariana and yet completely different at the same time. And I think it all comes down to those expressive brown eyes. Then again, if you stuck an obscenely long ponytail on this dude and sent him out on stage, I probably wouldn't think twice, until he attempted those insane whistle tones, that is. Zac Efron. Zac Efron has been a Hollywood heartthrob ever since he starred as Troy Bolton in Disney's High School Musical, but what if he was more Gabriella instead? This gender swap experiment basically confirms what we already knew, that Mr. Efron is offensively attractive and it's just not fair on the rest of us. Those piercing blue eyes are even more amplified by the false lashes and makeup, and this blonde bombshell wouldn't look out of place on the Victoria's Secret catwalk. Turns out female Zac can totally pull off the brunette look too, judging by these transformations. And he could probably give Megan Fox a run for her money with that picture-perfect pout. Megan Fox. Speaking of Megan Fox, take a look at what the actress and model would look like if she were a he in this unbelievable switch-up. Teenage boys all over the world had posters of Megan on their walls when the first Transformers movie came out. But I'm not so sure teen girls would be fighting over this dude. Besides the light green eyes, not much of Meg's exceptional beauty is shining through in this mix-up. With untamed brows, messy stubble, and acne, it's safe to say this is a pretty average-looking guy. So Megan should probably thank her lucky stars. Morgan Freeman. It's virtually impossible to dislike Morgan Freeman. With over 90 starring roles under his acting belt and one of the most soothing voices on the planet to boot, other than mine of course, he's one of Hollywood's greatest legends. But would all that have changed if he was born Marge Freeman instead? I don't know about legendary, but we can safely assume this would be one sweet old lady. There's no doubt this A-lister grandma wouldn't let you leave her house without filling up on freshly baked cookies first. Rihanna. Only the most iconic celebs are known just by their first name, and Rihanna is a true musical tour de force. That is, until she abandoned the whole shebang to become the CEO of her own Fenty beauty brand. If Rhi was a he though, I wonder what they'd be up to nowadays. Judging by this flattering transformation, which is really a testament to Rihanna's good genes, there's no doubt boy Rihanna would still be in the spotlight. Rhi's had a few acting roles herself, but I could totally see this guy making it on the big screen. Leonardo DiCaprio. Good old Leo DiCaprio has been gracing our screen since he turned 16, and a whole slew of iconic roles have made his face one of the most recognizable in Hollywood. In another life, it seems like DiCaprio could have had an equally successful career in modeling though. Judging by this gender swap transformation, he might already be one of Tinseltown's most famous blondes, but as a woman, he would be totally drop-dead gorgeous. With eyes like that and cheekbones that could cut a man, it seems like someone should be painting Leo like one of those French girls. The Rock. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is so distinctive in appearance that it's hard to envision him as anything other than himself. Despite the best efforts to conceal his extreme buffness, this switch-up is comical at best. There's no other way to see this than as The Rock in a cheap wig with a bit of lippy slapped on. But hey, at least we know what he'd look like in drag. This swap looks like Johnson has just been announced as a welcome addition to the White Chick sequel, but it's definitely an improvement. Maybe blonde is his color after all. Rebel Wilson. Rebel Wilson isn't everyone's cup of tea, but she definitely doesn't take herself too seriously. She did call herself Fat Amy in the Pitch Perfect franchise after all. If you're wondering whether she'd get a better rep if she'd been born a boy, then take a look at this transformation, which certainly hasn't been kind to her. There's something so uncomfortable looking about this fictional person, from the awkward grimace to the unkempt facial hair. It seems far more likely that you'd find this male Rebel Wilson working at the local GameStop than walking the red carpet. Lana Del Rey. America's favorite sadcore queen, Lana Del Rey, is known for her moody lyrics and her striking Hollywood glamour appearance. Although we may never be sure whether her picture-perfect face has been surgically enhanced or not, we can speculate about what she'd look like if she was a dude. Provided her looks are all natural, it's safe to say Lana would make a pretty handsome guy blessed with an annoyingly symmetrical face. I wonder what her voice would be like in a male register. A duet between the two would be an emo dream. Barack Obama. There's something so warm and friendly about Obama's face, which is probably why so many of us would love to hang out with him. I'm not sure the same could be said for his fierce female counterpart though. This would-be woman looks like a total badass with that steely gaze and all-out makeup job. And who'd have thought Barack could pull off blonde? I like to think there's an alternate universe where this glamorous dragged-up version of Obama is America's first female president. Ed Sheeran. Unlike most pop stars, Ed Sheeran pretty much looks like your average guy. In fact, most of the time, the only effort he seems to put into his appearance is finding a different pair of jeans and a flannel shirt to chuck on before heading on stage. He wouldn't get away with such laziness if he were a woman, so let's imagine what he'd be working with for a second. Judging by these terrifying transformations, it seems like Sheeran would probably look something like an adult JonBenet Ramsey, which is not a pretty sight. The most surprising part is that his familiar ginger hair has miraculously become platinum. Kylie Jenner. Lover or hater, Kylie Jenner has hustled her way to total internet domination as one of the most followed people on Instagram, not to mention the world's youngest billionaire. With all that viral fame, her face, especially her plumped up lips, are everywhere nowadays. But can you imagine what she looked like as a dude? Brace yourselves, because the Kardashian empire could be a very different place with this guy as their youngest sibling. In another life, this dashing fellow could be the beauty icon that launched 1,000 influencers. Can you imagine him testing eyeshadow colors on his Insta story? Donald Trump. A lot can be said for Donald Trump's appearance, and most of it isn't very flattering. With his physics-defying comb-over and pale eyes glowing like two moons in a sky full of Cheeto dust, it's safe to say he could do with a major makeover. Let's imagine for a second that Trump is actually America's first female president. Just how glamorous would he be? The answer is not very. The phrase mutton dressed as a lamb is probably the best way to describe this commendable effort to conceal Trump's stern expression with a splash of cheap makeup. No matter how you doll him up, it seems like a female Trump would be no less concerning to look at than the man in the office today. In this transformation, he even comes off as a bad Taylor Swift impersonator, which is a show I'd pay good money to see actually. Melania Trump. It wouldn't be fair to turn the tables on good old Trump without taking a look at America's First Lady too, right? People have had a lot to say about Melania's awkward, dead-behind-the-eyes public appearances since her billionaire husband took office, so maybe she'd fare better as a dude. In this switch-up, male Melania looks like some sort of wannabe boy band reject. But with that unnervingly intense gaze, it's still unmistakably her. The same can be said for this horrifyingly realistic masculine portrait, which totally looks like he knows something you don't. Ivanka Trump. While we're at it, let's just go ahead and gender flip the whole family. Trump's eldest daughter Ivanka has already been vocal about running for office in the future, but would her chances be bettered if she wasn't, well, a she? If anything, there's something even shiftier looking about this mock-up of a male Ivanka than she is in female form. With that nerdy middle parting and weirdly uncomfortable grin, I'm not sure I'd trust this dweeb further than I could throw him. So maybe it's best that she stays as she is for now. Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. Wrapping up the presidential family saga, here's a peek into the alternative lives of Trump's sons if they were his daughters instead. First up is Trump's third child, Eric, who, as you can see, would be a total looker if he'd been born female. Okay, so she may not be the most glamorous would-be woman on this list, but given the original material there was to work with, I'd say Eric should probably consider starting a drag career as a side hustle. Eric's transformation can't really compare to his older brother Donald Trump Jr. though, who's been turned into a total babe with the magic of gender swapping. Who'd have thought such an average-looking man could be transformed so dramatically by a healthy head of hair and a good makeup artist? Looks like Eric drew the short straw on this one. Channing Tatum. Channing Tatum is basically the Zac Efron of the stay-at-home mom world after he sent every middle-aged woman's blood pressure soaring with his leading role in the Magic Mike films. Just like Zac, Channing would definitely still be a total heartthrob if he had been born female, judging by this remarkable transformation. If anything, this platinum blonde bombshell is even more attractive than Mr. Tatum himself, especially after that catwalk-ready piercing gaze and a makeup job that could probably give James Charles a run for his money. Dr. Phil. There's no way you could pass Dr. Phil on the street without doing a double take. Whether you watch his show or not, his mustache grin and shiny bald head are pretty inescapable. Let's imagine that Phil was actually born Philomena for a second though, and she'd probably look something like this, right? Somehow a full head of hair has knocked about 30 years off Phil's life, and he now looks like he's been selling Girl Scout cookies door to door. How could you say no to that face? Justin Bieber. JB is definitely one of the most divisive celebrities of the modern era, but I wonder how many teenage boys would catch a case of Bieber fever if he was born a she. If this gender swap is anything to go by, I'd say Justin, or should I say Justine, would probably have more than a handful of potential suitors falling at her feet. There's a chance female Justin could pass as a long-lost Delvine's sister, or maybe even a blonde-haired Ruby Rose. Either way, it's safe to say that Beliebers would still be around if the tables were turned on the pop star we all love to hate. Which of these transformations shocked you the most? And who would you like to see gender flip for a potential part 2? Let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching.